Third POV. So, I was right. You are the ones who attacked Yue. Hero killer Stain muttered, glaring bloodshot eyes like daggers at Shigaraki. And you want to recruit me to build up your group again? Yeah, pretty much. Tamura Shigaraki nodded, flashing a grin behind the pale hand of his father. You've got so much experience and a high kill list to boot. You'd be an amazing addition to our party. And what is your mission, exactly? Stain questioned. For now, I want to kill those that I hate. The ones in this wretched society that annoy me the most, Shigaraki answered. First and number one target on our agenda, All Might. Stain's eyes narrowed. But also, I want to kill this brat almost as much. Shigaraki held up a picture of a certain green-haired sports festival champion between two of his fingers. Izuku Midoriya. If Stain's eyes could kill, Shigaraki would have already been mincemeat. I was a fool to believe you could offer me anything. Stain growled hatefully. You are the exact kind of vermin I hate most in this world. Huh, Shigaraki voiced, his grin dropping, and confused offense flashing from the red eyes peering out from between his father's fingers. Kurojiri, beside him, shifted his weight, alert. The goals of your league are those of a child. Petulant, selfish, short-sighted. Stain continued, his hands rising to grasp the daggers at his sides. What is the point of killing if you don't have real convictions? Kurojiri's pure yellow eyes narrowed tensely through his misty form. The hero killer, Stain. Kurojiri thought. Shigaraki only cares for wanton violence. We'd chosen Stain in hopes the man could guide him to his fullest potential. Stain began unsheathing his daggers. Perhaps we were wrong, Master. Shall I interfere? Kurojiri asked the TV. Let it happen. The Master's voice projected from the screen. It's possible this is the only way he'll learn anything. Shigaraki flinched, growling. He could hear the mockery in his master's tone, practically goading him to fight as if expecting he would get humbled by this ragged wannabe assassin type. He needs to think about the ways he must grow, what he needs to learn, to mature, Master continued. That is the only way he'll continue to reach his full potential. Stain kept his glare on Shigaraki, yet took note of the screen's voice. This Master. So, it's not this brat who is the true leader. There's someone else pulling the strings here, Stain noted calculatingly. And he expects me to be some tutor for the boy. Stain grinned darkly. Very well. Let's see if he learns anything before I plunge my daggers into his rotted heart. With that, Stain lunged, unaware of the shadow hiding in the darkest corner of the room, red eyes glaring through the darkness, leaking a putrid purple glow. So, looks like the two of you managed to bond. Riley smirked, arms crossed. I have to say I'm impressed. Izuku, Luca, and Pikachu sat on their knees across the table from Riley and his Lucario. The inside of the Pro Heroes/Aura Guardians home felt like a wild blend of modern and traditional Japanese-style homes, from the sliding doors, the low table, the tatami mats, and some artistic paintings, one of which included a Lucario meditating on one foot before a cliff overlooking a giant tree, shaped and gleaming like it was made of crystal. This contrasted with the comfy couch, beanbag seats, and a random drum set packed in the corner of the living room. Plus, the area felt a tad messy, barely catching a glimpse of his pro-hero mentor sneakily hiding a pizza box under the couch while whistling innocently. Izuku said nothing, even as he deadpanned then. It was only by your instruction and aid that I was able to succeed, Guardian-sensei. Izuku bowed lowly and respectfully. Luca caught Izuku's action and quickly mimicked his newfound trainer/partner. Pikachu looked at the two and rolled his eyes, huffing his head away. Bah, Taisher said you had quite the humble streak on you. We'll work on that, too, Riley scoffed. But nah, I knew you'd catch up to Luca eventually. It's actually how you managed to bond with the little twerp that surprises me. Huh, Izuku quirked an eyebrow, confused. How come? Is that not what you wanted from me? You already passed when you caught up and cornered Luca. That was already a catch in my book, Riley explained. Pupil Aura Guardians often have various tasks their masters would have them take to prove their mettle, to see if they have what it takes to level up to the next stage of their training. One of the most regular tasks is to corner and catch an assigned Pokemon, often a Riolu. Riley gestured to his own Lucario. Riolu and Lucario are like the mascots of Aura, so most of us often have one as our partners. Partners? Izuku repeated. I assume that means more than just your first or ace Pokemon? Right, Riley nodded. For our kind, partners are especially important. They are the ones we bond with the most, train side by side to wield Aura as fluently and vigorously as ourselves. A partner to center ourselves. Since Lucarios already have a strong connection to Aura, they are usually the standard partner material. Though there are exceptions. Take your senpai, Nijire. Riley smiled, reminiscing fondly about the earliest days of training his first pupil and her Togekiss. Thus, for those instances, any Pokemon with a sufficient enough connection to Aura would do. And then, there's this little troublemaker. Riley gestured to Luca. Izuku glanced at his new Pokemon, still confused. See, Luca here is unique among his kind. You probably sensed as much when the two of you bonded. Izuku nodded seriously. When he and Luca bonded, Izuku experienced something different, unlike the others. He felt some of Luca's pain, his anguish and trauma, and something special about the Pokemon. Not enough to know or experience everything Luca felt, but like skimming through the important emotions and aspects of him. Well, Luca here has had a record of rejecting bonding with any pupil who ever tried to catch him. Sometimes violently. Riley gestured to Izuku's sixth Pokemon. The little guy was so sought after for his gifts and reputation, the Order decided it was best to relocate him with someone to look after him, and of course, they tossed the guy onto me. Riley rolled his eyes like he was exasperated with the Order's decision, or with Luca, or perhaps both. Needless to say, the little guy was one hell of a problem child. Luca stuck his tongue out at him. Problem child, huh? Izuku chuckled, a small smile on his face, gazing at his new Pokemon. I do know what it's like to be one. Izuku thought of Aizawa calling him by that name, how he was always the one sought by his former classmates from Aldera to be their punching bag whenever their day went sour, especially Bakugu. It was perhaps the reverse of Luca's situation, but the results were seemingly the same. That wasn't even counting the rough start he and Aizawa, the one who calls him a problem child the most, had. I guess that's something that helped connect the two of us so well, Izuku stated, patting Luca on his head. The emanation Pokemon hummed softly in enjoyment, an act that was as foreign to Riley's eyes as wings on a Lechonk. But make no mistake, Master Aaron. Izuku turned to Riley with a serious look, his other hand reaching out and patting Pikachu's head. 2. I don't have one partner or favorite. All of my Pokemon are my partners. Each one of them has something unique to offer, something special between us. Whatever path or challenges I go through, they all go too. Riley and Lucario blinked, surprised at Izuku's declaration. Lucas stared up at Izuku with a look of awe on his face, the warmth of his trainer's hand somehow warmer as his respect grew. Pikachu smirked proudly and warmly at his trainer/best friend, and the two Pokemon could feel similar emotions emanating from Eevee and the others within their Pokeballs. Finally, Riley burst out laughing, smacking his knees. Bold talk, I like that. Riley chuckled, grinning wildly at Izuku. You could teach some of our most stuffy masters a thing or two. Very well, kid. Whatever training you go through, they do too. Hope they are ready for the world of pain you open them up to. What have you done, boss? Pikachu muttered grimly, paling. Why drag me into hell with you? What did I do wrong? Oh, is that cowardice I hear from you? Froakie asked challengingly. I, for one, welcome the challenge. As do I, Shelgon voiced mentally. The opportunity to grow and reach my evolution faster is a welcome one. Hey, who are you calling a coward? Pikachu exclaimed back at Froakie. Humph. As if I'd let Shellhead and Bubble Wrap show me up. Count me in. Careful, Pikachu. You're sounding an awful lot like a certain explosive primate we all know and dislike, Eevee pointed out teasingly. Don't compare me to that sack of flaming shit. Pikachu mentally yelled more fiercely. Then quit acting like him, Combuskin replied. As for this training, I, too, welcome the chance to grow stronger with you, Izuku. We are with you to the end. Thanks, guys, Izuku replied, smiling warmly. Turning to Luca, he asked, "And you, Luca? I know this arrangement might be disappointing than what you expected." "Not at all, Sir Izuku." Luca shook his head vehemently, pumping his paws enthusiastically. "Your care and equal treatment of my fellow brother and sister is commendable and inspiring. I look forward to training alongside you all." "Is it me? Or does he remind you of someone?" Pikachu muttered, a mental image of Ida popping into his head. "You are not wrong," Combuskin replied, remembering from Izuku's notes and her own memories that both Ida and his brother likewise had Lucarios. "Birds of a feather, I suppose." "Glad to hear it." Izuku, ignoring the two, replied to Luca, "But you don't have to call me sir or anything. Just Izuku would be fine." Luca nodded, eyes downcast in deep thought for a moment. "Can I call you partner sometime too?" the Pokemon asked hopefully. Izuku flinched, unable to turn away from the adorable puppy eyes Luca was flashing him with. Fine. I suppose you can call me that if you'd like." Izuku relented. Luca's smile was so blinding to Izuku that he wondered if this was what his friends reportedly said he looked like when he smiled, too. Riley's chuckling snapped Izuku back to him, the Aura Guardian smirking amused. "If you and your Pokemon are finished with your little powwow," Riley said. Sorry, Master Aaron." Izuku apologized, he and Luca bowing once more. "Hey, what did I say about that master crap?" Riley snapped, annoyed, before shaking it off. "And you're fine, kid. It's common for us to talk with our Pokemon in our heads, although we usually only achieve telepathic communication after a few months of bonding." Riley raised a suspicious eyebrow. "And you're communicating with Luca instantly. Strange." Izuku froze, thinking briefly over One for All's inherent ability to form telepathic communication between the user and their Pokemon. Panic briefly spiked in him before he mastered it. Well, that's thanks to my quirk, actually," Izuku replied, a nervous smile on his face. "It's powered similarly to Aura, so maybe it helps boost the connection between my Pokemon and me." Mostly true, yet not completely honest. Taisher never said anything about whether his Aura Guardian mentor was trustworthy enough to know the secret of One for All, and Izuku felt guilty for keeping a secret from the man who was supposed to be mentoring him, but Izuku wasn't going to take his chances so quickly. "Even my friends don't know the truth about One for All," Izuku remembered bitterly and guiltily at that fact. A large part of him wanted to tell them, even if just one, Serena often being his first choice, but his loyalty and promise to all might still weighed heavily on his heart. Luca quirked an eyebrow, easily tensing the distress and panic of his trainer regarding his quirk. Glancing at Pikachu, the electric mouse Pokemon shook his head subtly, mouthing the word later. Luca nodded, keeping mum. Riley narrowed his eyes slightly, easily sensing the bullshit underneath Midoriya's truthful words, but said nothing, noting it wouldn't do well to start off interrogating his newest pupil early into his training. Especially someone like him, Riley thought. "Yes, well, I can help you with that part of you, too, but your aura is the aspect that we'll focus on for the most part," Riley stated, switching gears to more official business. "For the next week, I'm going to drill into you everything you need to know about how to use aura and not get yourself killed. It'll be exhausting, brutally so, and you might come out of this hating my guts, but to make you the kind of aura guardian you need to be, you'll have to endure it all, and then some. Think you're ready?" Izuku paused, thinking contemplatively on his answer. "No, I don't think I am," Izuku answered, gazing back at him seriously. "But I'm ready enough." Riley smirked again. "Good answer, rookie. Let Riley's Aura Boot Camp begin. You want me to be a part of your crumbling little league? Without true conviction or desire?" Stain questioned mockingly. "As far as I see it, you don't have any real goal or purpose to guide and push you. That is why you are an aimless weakling, and why we are here." The short fight that erupted concluded with the hero killer crouched over Shigaraki, lying on his back with one of Stain's daggers stabbed into his shoulder and the other dagger hovering above his neck. Shigaraki hissed in pain, the sharp, jagged dagger digging into his flesh, fresh blood spilling and staining, fittingly enough, his black shirt. "Hey, now, unnecessary roughness here. I call friendly fire." Shigaraki grumbled painfully, His wit the only thing keeping him from howling and whining over the pain and humiliation of his rapid defeat. Kurogyri, take this guy away. Now. I can't, Kurogyri groaned, leaning on the bar, twitching and visibly struggling, but frozen enough. The arm of his white dress shirt was tainted red from his earlier cut, and his limbs were frozen, unable to move. I'm unable to move. It must be the hero killer's quirk. Shigaraki hissed in annoyance. If there was a quirk more speculated over as much as All Might's ridiculous strength, it was hero killer Stain's. No one knew what it was. No one had ever come out of a fight with the hero killer where it wasn't over so instantly they couldn't give an accurate analysis of what it was. Or they didn't live long enough to tell the tale. One or the other. Some even speculated that the hero killer was quirkless and merely a skilled assassin. Those assumptions were laughed at, and Shigaraki would have agreed and joined them if he hadn't witnessed just now how fiercely and deadly the hero killer was up close. Must be some kind of paralysis quirk, or he laced his daggers with a kind of paralyzing toxin, Shigaraki deduced. But then again, I'm not feeling the same. I can still move, so it can't be the latter. Just what is it? The word hero has lost all meaning in this twisted society. The world is overrun by fakes that care only for fame and profit. Thugs and scoundrels behind pretty masks and flashy titles, Stain declared, his dagger nearing Shigaraki's throat. They're no different from a cancer on this world than villains like you. I fight to purge the rot from this society. Like a farmer culling wheat from the chaff, like a gardener clipping away the vines and imperfections, I reap the fakes and preserve the idyllic flowers, and you want to kill one of the brightest beacons for such petty reasons. Shigaraki narrowed his eyes. You must be cold, too. Stain moved to cut the boy's throat, but paused as he saw Shigaraki's hand gripping the blade. The boy didn't seem to flinch as blood spilled from the wound where the blade pierced his skin. The grip was iron-tight, and his glare just as venomous. What do you think you're doing? Don't you know what I can do? Shigaraki questioned, as cracks of decay spread from his pristine dagger where the boy's fingers had touched. You touch this palm, I'll kill you. Stain's eyes widened, focused more on the pure rage in Shigaraki's blood-red eyes than on how his dagger decayed and rusted. You talk a big game, hero killer? Quite the interesting monologue. Shigaraki grumbled mockingly in return. Conviction? Maybe I don't have something as loaded as that. Shigaraki clenched his grip tighter, and the dagger that Stain had sharpened to perfection this morning turned to dust. But desire? If I had to choose one, it'd be killing All Might, that faker, that trash. Shigaraki's deranged smile spread out from the anonymity behind the hand on his face. Stain gazed into the boy's hateful eyes, gleaming with a madness that was, ironically, just as paralyzing as his quirk. If this sick society wants to worship scum like him, I'll crush their precious symbol of peace and crush them on their knees, shocked and broken, Shigaraki declared gleefully. And anyone who gets in my way or chooses to follow that trash's example will turn to dust along with him. Starting with that cheating, idyllic brat. Stain stiffened, a burst of feeling washing through him from Shigaraki's words. The hero killer was almost overwhelmed by them. He would scarcely call it begrudging respect if his own convictions didn't clash violently against Shigaraki's. Then, his instincts flared, snapping him from his trance. Stain leaped backward, dodging a swipe from Shigaraki's hand. Stain landed, hunched, ready to strike. Stain kept a wary eye on Shigaraki as the boy rose to his feet. Ugh, the last of my injuries were just finished healing, and then you had to do this, Shigaraki whined, testing his shoulder with a flex and flinched. His left hand rose to scratch at his irritated neck. We don't have a healer in our party. I see your nature, Stain chuckled, Shigaraki noising his confusion. Our goals oppose each other, fundamentally. However, I can see that we can agree on one thing. This society needs to be destroyed. That is a desire I can acknowledge. Huh? What is this? Some half-assed plot twist. Shigaraki questioned, befuddled. You said I was the kind of person you hated most. You attacked me and tried to kill me, but now you're complimenting me? I was testing your motives. A person's true colors are revealed when they are desperate and close to death. Stain explained, a grin forming. Abnormal though it is, you do have desire. A warped sprout of mad conviction. I'm almost intrigued to see how it will bloom. So, is that supposed to be your roundabout way of agreeing to join us? Shigaraki growled, because the offer's off. I don't like inviting haters who stab me in the shoulder to my party. I didn't say that, Stain pointed out, his grin dropping. As I said, our goals may align on theory and desire, but they are too far apart ever to join hands. Stain raised his other dagger, still bloodied from its time stabbed into Shigaraki's shoulder. All Might is the only hero worthy of the title, and Izuku Midoriya is the brightest light of hope this society has to change. I will do what I must to ensure their lights never go out. Shigaraki growled, his temper flaring at hearing another damn toady praising that green-haired brat like he was some prophesied savior. The hero killer was right, Shigaraki admitted. They were too different ever to work together. And that makes him a loose and I need to cut away. Shigaraki decided, just about to leap toward the hero killer and reduce him to nothing. Stain's tongue touched his blade, licking Shigaraki's blood. Shigaraki shuddered, freezing in place before falling over to the ground again. Face first this time. Tamura cringed at the impact, his father's hand flying off to a corner of the room. His red eyes watched his father glide away, his fury rising. Shigaraki gazed up at Stain, looming over him. The world has no place for you, Tamura Shigaraki, Stain declared, sheathing his dagger and pulling out a katana from his back. Darkness may be needed to test the light, but yours is too foul to let run amok. Maybe I will take your little group as inspiration for my own, and make you an example of what to be and what not to. Stain's katana lowered and grazed Shigaraki's neck, a guillotine, and Stain was his executioner. Take that as the only solace I grant you. Take your stupid solace and choke on it. Shigaraki growled. You'll regret this. Master will dash. Your master isn't here, Stain cut him off, raising his katana high. Death is. Stain swung his katana down. Shigaraki's life began to flash before his very eyes. It infuriated him, sickened him. Tamura hated it. Something inside him was about to snap and be free. Then the blade stopped, but not on Shigaraki's neck. Stain and Shigaraki stared, stunned at what stopped the hero killer's blade. A staff of solid light. The construct gave off a putrid odor, a malevolent miasma wafting into the air that sickened the two villains. Its purple glow illuminated the dimly lit room more clearly, revealing the cloaked man who wielded it. Stain felt that instinctive urge to back away, and so he did, but this time, Stain panted. He couldn't help but try to catch his breath. The air was heavier than before, suffocating under the new presence and this unholy power it wielded. The instinctive fear of preservation was 10 times greater than what he felt from Shigaraki's madness. This wasn't the deranged passion that Stain felt before. This felt evil, pure, and devouring. You're right, death is here. The cloaked figure spoke, raising his purple staff, a blade forming and curving from the top, a scythe. But it's not you. The cloaked figure turned to face Stain, raising his head for Stain to get a good grasp of the man's features. The man's skin was a dark brown, yet Stain couldn't tell whether it was natural or tanned under the purple light. The man looked younger than Stain first assumed from his voice, perhaps in his late 20s. His features were chiseled and sharpened like sharp stone. His short nose had a jagged scar that traveled across it, and his right eye. The scar still looked red and angry despite subtle signs of age in its edges. Bleached white hair poked out of the cloak, flecks of black littering the tips of his hair. His smile would have been considered charming, but on the man and with his scar, it looked wrong, twisted, and warped by deep hatred. Stain could see the signs of a kimono underneath the cloak. His sharp eyes were the most disturbing, red eyes, almost like the brat's, but different. They seemed to gleam a purplish hue that glowed with the same sickening glow as his side. If Stain squinted, he could see the purple shade attempting to spread and overwhelm the man's red eyes periodically, like a parasite. This was a different type of man than Shigaraki, Stain realized. Not petulant, but demanding, with the authority and power to back his right. This was a creature not to be treated lightly for a single moment, and Stain was already subtly analyzing the best way to flee this room and whatever city he was in to get away from this predator that made Stain finally feel like he was prey. "Who are you supposed to be?" Shigaraki growled, though Stain could hear the hesitancy leaking through. "I'm the sorry bastard who saved your neck from an unfortunate date with a ninja wannabe's katana," the cloaked man stated, leaning on his manifested scythe. "And your newest recruit." "What?" Shigaraki gasped. I know. You're flattered, and I humbly accept the position of your number 2, the man replied, braggingly, extending his hand out for Shigaraki to take. "Kuro, at your service." After a moment of Shigaraki remaining still, Kuro's face gained a look of faux recognition. "Oh, right, paralyzed. Oopsie, I forgot. Perhaps for the best, I quite like my left hand. So much more useful than my right." "Master, what is the meaning of this?" Shigaraki directed his attention and gaze, as best he could, to the screen. "I thought you said Stain was the only one I was supposed to recruit. And he was..." Master spoke for the first time since the fight between Shigaraki and Stain began. "Kuro, on the other hand, I decided to lend you. He's a valuable ally, and he comes part of a package deal." Stain barely heard the whistle through the air before he slashed his katana, smacking away more purplish light constructs, these shaped like shurikens. Glancing swiftly toward where they came from, Stain blinked in surprise to see another figure crouching on top of the bar next to Kurojairi. He was dressed in a short, indigo-purple kimono, parted enough to reveal the black garb underneath, as well as on his arms and legs. Silver-colored gauntlets with amethyst gems were strapped to his arms, while a similarly colored short pauldron armored his left shoulder, and black, armored pads protected the lower legs, strapped in indigo-purple ropes. A hood obscured most of the upper half of his head, and a mask the lower half, yet Stain could see the young man's pale gray eyes and dirty blonde locks that bordered on sickly green. The kimono was wrapped right over the left, and dark gray lines that glowed like silver, flowing vertically on the indigo-purple design. A black symbol stuck out on the right breast of the outfit, a spiral with a spiky gem at the center surrounded by 18 broken gems and a broken pair of arcs with diagonal points. Where did he come from? Stain thought, alarmed. I couldn't tell he was there until he attacked. Stain paused as his heightened senses picked up on someone to his right. Another one? Sure enough, when Stain turned, another, similarly dressed figure stood off to the right, arms crossed, staring at him with golden amber eyes. The hood of this one's outfit poorly hid his auburn hair, the noticeable part being how the front strands were shaped like an X. His outfit, however, had different features. His gauntlets and left pauldron were colored a rusted gold with red rubies, and the lines of his kimono were also colored rusted gold. Different rankings, Stain assumed, wondering if the golden armored one was supposed to be of a higher rank than the silver one. What was clear to Stain was that he was surrounded. The brick wall with the screen was to his back, and the door out was blocked by this Kuro, who appeared to lead these two newcomers from what this master inferred. My apologies if this comes off as a trap, hero killer Stain, but rest assured it isn't. You will be free to go should you desire it. Master spoke, as if sensing Stain's discomfort. And when Kurojairi is released from your quirk's effects? And what guarantee do I have of that claim? Stain questioned. The fact that we could have struck at any time we wanted and left your head rolling on the floor rather than Tamura's. Kuro replied, his previous mischievous tone dropping significantly with a cold, sickly venom to it. Stain paused for a few moments before, reluctantly sheathing his katana. As if fortuitous, Kurojairi gasped. I can move again, Kurojairi said, rising from his leaned position on the bar. It is unfortunate that we could not come to an agreement, Hero Killer Stain, Master said. I do hope that you may reconsider our offer in the future and forgive any slights young Tamura had enacted on you. Shigaraki made it sound like he would rather gargle bleach than apologize to Stain, but the hero killer ignored him. I find compensation that this trip wasn't entirely in vain, Stain replied. However, I have but one request, save the one to return me to Hosu. Oh, Master voiced. A Pokemon battle. The boy and I, Stain revealed, everyone in the room aware he referred to Shigaraki. Just as in death, a person's true character is revealed on the field of battle and in the bonds of his most trusted allies. My partners and I will test the boy and his Pokemon. If I find him a satisfactory trainer more than he is as a negotiator, I may be open to a compromise. An excellent idea, Master stated, mirth in his tone. And I have just the place in mind for a private battle for the two of you. Shall tomorrow evening be a good time? Master, are you serious? Shigaraki hissed at the screen. You really think I would let my Pokemon waste their energy on Dash? It will suffice, Stain replied, ignoring Shigaraki, turning to look at Kirojiri. Send me back to Hosu. I will contact you when I'm ready. Kirojiri nodded and opened a warp gate for Stain to go through. The hero killer went through, ignoring Shigaraki's wails of protest and Kuro's haunting chuckles lingering in Stain's ears far longer than he wanted. The next day, Izuku wondered if maybe this Aura training was perhaps a big mistake. Originally, the day started as the green-haired teen expected. Izuku, used to early wake-ups from his training with all might, was prepared when Riley barged into the guest room where he slept, clanging two cymbals together. When the Aura Guardian saw that the only victims he managed to startle awake were Izuku's Pokemon, he was disappointed, pouting childishly over the failure of his scheme. Izuku's sweat dropped, but played along, attempting to act as if he were a startled, sleepy teen freshly scared awake. What followed soon after made Izuku wish he hadn't cheered his new master up. Riley's training plan made the ones he had with All Might in Dagoba Beach look like easy mode. Riley subjected Izuku to a series of quick and strenuous exercises for hours on end with very few breaks. The exercises alternated between typical ones, such as push-ups and sit-ups, and more unique ones tailored specifically to train his aura, so Riley said. Most relied on Izuku using his clear sight ability, such as dodging fired tennis balls from multiple machines, blindfolded, relying on the new ability to sense their approach from several directions and evade them. It proved more difficult than Izuku expected to maintain his senses while actively dodging and moving as quickly as he could to dodge the projectiles, getting pelted by a few balls when a sudden slip-up broke him out of his senses and left him blind to their approach. Another included Izuku's first use of the Wing Chun training dummies he'd seen in many pre-Quirk-era martial arts movies, or some from the American martial arts movies, including those of the American actor/gym leader, Bryson. The same principle as the tennis ball one, but to perform increasingly fast katas that Riley first demonstrated. Izuku was excited to officially learn martial arts. His battle style usually revolved around instinct, improvisation, and copying fighting styles from his Pokemon and heroes, mostly Combusken, All Might, Cinderace, and Gran Torino. Riley admitted that Izuku's ability to analyze and mimic a fighting style just from observation was impressive, yet it served to encourage the Aura Guardian to push his new student harder, quickly altering the training. This time, Izuku was forced to train with the dummy using clear sight while blindfolded. The truly difficult part was the random moments when Riley would stop one session and very quickly change it into another training session, often swapping a clear sight-themed one for a regular exercise, and then back again. The sudden switching between exercises, as well as attempting to utilize his aura while getting increasingly exhausted, left Izuku sweating buckets. It didn't help that Riley would also randomly jump in with a sneak attack, which left Izuku lying on the ground. True to Riley's word, Izuku's Pokemon were likewise into the ringer, with mixed results. Their naturally enhanced reflexes and senses made some exercises easier, though Eevee and Shelgon notably struggled more due to their quadrupedal biology, and, in Shelgon's case, a wider build. Combusken and Froakie seemed to flourish in the exercises, but even they were starting to get winded. Pikachu excelled at using his natural senses and speed for his sessions, but struggled when presented with weightlifting-based trials. What was an actual struggle for them was utilizing Aura. Riley explained that, unlike humans, all Pokemon have the capacity to use Aura, both passively throughout their bodies and actively in implementing it into their moves, making them more powerful. Another reason why Riolu and Lucario were often the most compatible choices as partners for Aura Guardians was their natural talent and connection in using Aura, making the jump into using it to upgrade their moves easier than most other Pokémon. Aura Sphere was one such example of how Aura was not something exclusive to the Lucario line, since multiple Pokémon outside of it could learn the move, and the move was not just a fancy name. Still, despite how One for All already seemed to have them interact with Aura more closely than most Pokémon, given the constant mental communication between Izuku and his partners, it was a large struggle for Izuku's Pokémon. Froakie and Combusken, again, were the ones with the clearest progress in this regard. The former surprisingly excelled rather quickly, and already seemed to have gotten clear sight down just as fast, if not faster than Izuku. Aura is often seen and felt by those of sound mind and strong spirit. It's why fighting types are often the ones most associated with Aura, Riley said. Your Froakie may not be a fighting type, but a lot of its species have an inherent talent in using their senses to sneak and attack with patience. Izuku had nodded, but felt unsure, feeling like there was something more when it came to Froakie's natural talent with Aura compared to the others. Of course, Riola had no trouble in keeping pace and surpassing Izuku in utilizing Aura. Over time, Izuku began watching his newly acquired Pokémon and how he used his abilities. What's more was the steely determination mixed with passion that Izuku saw in Riolu, clearly wanting to excel but patient and unwilling to overextend or get careless. It was admirable, Izuku analyzed, proud to have garnered the respect and partnership of such a Pokémon. The afternoon soon came, and Izuku already felt completely exhausted, as did most of his Pokémon. Then Riley dropped a new trial for Izuku, the one he was currently doing at this moment. "Boss, I gotta say, you look like you're in desperate need of taking a shit." Pikachu laughed at seeing Izuku's deeply frowning, close-eyed expression, likening it to one of constipation. Whack. Ow. Pikachu's cry of pain told Izuku that the electric mouse Pokémon had gotten another smack to the head by Riley's Lucario, Sirius. Despite Riley giving off a more relaxed, chill vibe, his Lucario was almost his opposite, being stern, steady, and serious. Pun deliberately intended. "Concentrate, Midoriya," Riley advised. "You've done it before. Surely you can make one that doesn't explode in your face." "The last time I made a complete one, I broke my hand," Izuku pointed out. "If I recall correctly, you said you believed that was a mix between your quirk and aura combining," Riley retorted. "And you've already got the technique down halfway. All you need to do is hold it, feel it, contain it." "Easier said than done," Izuku retorted in his mind. "I heard that," Riley replied telepathically. Still not used to others outside his Pokémon speaking with him telepathically, Izuku was startled, making the small, flickering aura sphere in his hands finally fade out of existence, thankfully being one of the attempts that didn't give Izuku the few soot marks he hadn't gained. His reprieve from another aura sphere detonation was instead replaced by a whack to the head by Lucario's aura-constructed bone staff. "Again," Riley said from his beach lounge chair, taking a sip of his drink. Delicious Magostberry Supreme. So sweet. So refreshing. A true winner's prize." Izuku felt his forehead veins twitch in slight irritation at having his reward practically waved right in his face, now seeing why Riley warned he might grow to hate his new master. "I hope the others are having a better time," Izuku absentmindedly thought as he resumed his attempts to make another stable aura sphere. "Right. Left. Right. Left." Uraraka chanted as she struck her fists forward in the air, repeating the same notions alongside Gunhead's sidekicks and their Pokémon. Erlen and Chew, the only bipedal Pokémon Uraraka possessed, followed along with their trainer and the sidekick's Pokémon, panting yet determined to train as diligently as Uraraka. "Don't just go through the motions," Gunhead advised as he and Brellum oversaw them. "Each individual punch. Focus on them. Feel the motions." Gunhead brought his fists close to his face. "Remember, the most important thing regarding any martial arts or technique is your base physical strength." "Yes, sir," Gunhead's sidekicks cried out, yet Uraraka briefly froze, staring at her mentor with wide eyes. "Look at how cute that pose is." Uraraka couldn't help but exclaim mentally at how Gunhead's pose looked cute. Ochako. Erilyn whispered sharply. Even if Uraraka couldn't translate the words, the pink-cheeked girl knew her Pokemon was urging her not to falter behind. Right. Left. Right. Uraraka quickly returned to form. This is lukewarm. Can't you two dense idiots know how to make a decent cup of tea? Kirishima and Tetsu stood rigid and nervous as Fourth Kind yelled and slammed his cup of tea, which they prepared, on the table. We want to impress clients who come to our agency. Fourth Kind stood and slammed his ringed fists onto their cork-hardened heads. Is this the kind of disrespectful crap you would serve them, too? Sorry, Mr. Fourth Kind, sir. The two students bowed and apologized. Geez, Fourth Kind scoffed, turning away from the two. Your powers sure make it satisfying and safe to hit you. Unbeknownst to the two students, Fourth Kind hid his pained expression and throbbing hands, reluctantly impressed with how strong their respective transformation quirks were. Should we be worried that this is some kind of abuse? Kirishima's Rockruff asked, a comical bead of sweat dropping down its head. No, I'm sure that Mr. Fourth Kind wouldn't do that if he knew the boys couldn't handle this form of punishment. Tetsu's Kyuffin responded. Despite her words, though, Kyuffin couldn't help but sweat drop, too. I hope. Your agility is not bad, and you're on the right track using your quirk to aid your evasion and speed, but you're lacking in power and finesse. Maruko called out as she jumped from rooftop to rooftop, glancing back at her in turn, struggling to catch up to her. You have to use every part of your body in combat, all your skills and strength, and sharpen them to their fullest potential. Your endurance, physicality, and quirk. You need to toughen them up. Do as your school motto says, and push your limits beyond. Yes, Ms. Maruko. Mina panted, releasing non-lethal acid to slide, building momentum for her to jump to the next rooftop. Upon landing, the pink-skinned girl stumbled for a bit, recovering as fast as she could to continue. You're taking too long trying to recover from one slip-up. Maruko yelled out. Don't fight your momentum. Flow with it. Roll with it even. Let your body guide you as you guide it. Hi. Mina nodded and continued after her mentor a few rooftops ahead. You know, she isn't as bad as I thought she would be. Mina remembered that battle-hungry gaze in her eyes, which she first thought was similar to Bakugu's. However, as she spent time with a rabbit hero, Mina started to see how tempered and controlled she was compared to the ash-blonde bully. She knows what she is, but doesn't let her nature control her. She uses it when she needs to and knows when to tame it down. She may be a little impatient, but it's out of being as efficient as possible. Mina smiled, admiring Maruko's reliability and commitment. Feeling a surge of inspiration, Mina picked up the pace, her exhaustion forgotten as she slid and jumped off another rooftop. Landing on the roof with a cushion of acid, Mina felt herself slip, her body carrying her forward. Panic briefly shot through her before Mina pushed it away, her unusual eyes blazing with determination. Following Maruko's instruction, Mina didn't fight her momentum. She flowed with it. Mina dipped forward, allowing herself to roll along the floor of the roof before reorienting and shooting forward. Mina felt the wind blow through her face, exhilaration pumping through her veins, joy spreading across her face as she felt herself go faster. Not willing to let herself slow down, Mina picked up the pace, continuing to follow the flow of her movements. Maruko looked back again, smirking as she saw the quick improvement of her first in turn. Being a mentor is a lot more fun than I thought. Toru fell to the ground, groaning as she felt the throbbing pain of the object that struck her side. Your ability to remain as silent as the grave while invisible is impressive, Hagakure. However, you spend too long trying to turn your quirk on and off. Her forearms were covered in white vambraces, 2 yellow lines at the vambrace top and middle, along with tiny white pads, leaving her hands bare. The outfit was completed with a red and white baseball-like cap on her head, white sideways extending out on both sides to the white straps on the sides, golden buttons on the top, and a white shark-like fin on the top of the cap. By their sides, Setsuna's Cyclizer and Yui's Hatram walked alongside their partners. The man they followed was dressed in a padded, black, long-sleeve top and baggy pants, the sides of the pants lined in dark gray. Lighter gray, armored boots reached up to his knees, a green sash wrapped around his waist, a short, orange robe hanging off his shoulders and tied in a green and yellow front sash, a gray popped collar, and gray wrappings covered his forearms to the back of his hand, leaving the sides, palms, and fingers bare, save for the golden ring on his middle. Man wore a scarlet, pointy, wizard-like hat with a pale blue scarf tied around the base and flowing out behind him, dark blue triangles accenting the scarf. This was the magic hero, majestic, and walking alongside him was his trusty Alakazam. Patience is a virtue, Reptilla, Majestic said, a finger pointing skyward. Not every day or patrol leads to a crime at every corner, but when they do, it's wise to save your strength for them. Flashing your quirks as you fly by may make you look cool, and you can indulge, so from time to time if you want, keep things interesting if you will, but wasted energy using your quirks could be useful energy that would have been better served fighting hordes of goons. A good hero knows when to use their quirks and when to hold back. What do you think, Min-Max? Yui hummed an affirming tone, her nodding confirming her agreement. Haha, still not one for words, huh? Majestic chuckled. That's fine, too. Saving your breath for when things get hairy is also a good use of your energy. All right, I get it, Setsuna said, hands raised in surrender. As they began to trek onward more quietly, Setsuna turned to her usually silent classmate, inching closer till she brushed their shoulders. So, I saw that you were checking out Midoriya back during our joint hero name choosing. Interested? Yui's steady walk faltered slightly under the unexpected topic. Yui turned to face the grinning Setsuna, raising a delicate eyebrow. Yeah, I know. I can't deny I'm also interested, Setsuna shrugged. Can't help it. The dude fills out nearly every single one of my boxes. Smart. The sweet kind of nervous dork energy. A killer bod dash, Setsuna tapped her elbow to Yui's side, a teasing glint in her eyes. Her grin widened when she saw the slight pinkening on Yui's cheeks. A bit on the anxious side, but damn is he hot when he gets all confident and stuff. Yui turned back to Setsuna, her gaze narrowing a tad. Just wanted to know where we stood on the subject, Setsuna replied. Hot as he is, I don't want a dude to come between our friendship and camaraderie as classmates. Yui nodded, a look of understanding in her eyes. The raven-haired girl then looked off into empty space, imagining Midoriya's cute, nervous expressions clashing with his confident glares and grins, a paradoxical mix that she found interesting and alluring. And what would you do if I said I was? Yui asked. Setsuna was momentarily taken aback, both by Yui actually talking and the question itself. Setsuna hummed, arms crossed behind her head, gazing up at the sky, contemplating. Well, follow-up question. Would you be opposed to sharing? Setsuna asked. Yui's eyes widened sharply, blinking rapidly as if she didn't register Setsuna's question clearly. I don't know if it's some kind of biological side effect of my quirk. Reptilian Pokemon don't often mate for life with the same partners or have standard, monogamous relationships, Setsuna explained, a slight blush on her cheeks showing. But when I think about having a mate, I find I don't mind if they also fool around with other women, as long as I know about it. Setsuna returned her gaze to Yui, this time sultrier, and I can join in on the fun. Yui's cheeks reddened considerably, looking away, anxiously. I don't know. Yui muttered quietly, uncertainty in her eyes. Hey, I'm not trying to pressure you into it or anything fucked up like that, Setsuna waved her hands, suddenly worried. Just laying out options and thoughts. Plus, I asked because it seems like we aren't the only ones interested in Parsley. Yui met Setsuna's gaze again. You know the girls in Parsley's class also have a thing for him. I'm confident enough to say all of them do. Yui nodded, noticing this too. And I'd rather spread the love rather than fight over it, and Parsley seems like a cool guy who wouldn't treat us badly. Even if it's just to get to know him better, I'd like to see more of him. Yui was silent for a few moments before saying, Pervert. Setsuna gasped dramatically, hands over her chest. Yui, how dare you? Setsuna exclaimed. How dare you call me out and be so right about it? A small smile rose from Yui's lips for a second. Yui contemplated Setsuna's reasoning and found it, while a tad strange, was logical. Any competition over Izuku Midoriya could spark tension that could be detrimental to their future careers as heroes and could become more fuel for Monoma's incessant, heated rivalry with Class 1A. Granted, Monoma would likely still object strenuously to any of our class intermingling with that of 1A, Yui admitted to herself, almost scoffing out loud. As if that narcissist has any right or say on who we choose to associate with. Regardless, the idea of sharing Izuku Midoriya did present a number of problems despite Setsuna's openness to try. Jealousy, favoritism, pride. They were all factors that could arise with any of these women who would try to court Izuku Midoriya at the same time, and that was just with the women. Yui could see Izuku potentially struggling to be available and affectionate with all of them, and attempting to delegate time and love equally among how many lovers he'd obtained. The more she thought of the logistics behind such an arrangement, the more Yui was tempted to say no. But then, as her thoughts centered on Midoriya, the words stopped in her throat. His humbleness, his heroic heart, his cute blend of nervousness and confidence, not to mention his favorable physical qualities, from his appealing physique to his unique shade of messy hair and eyes, even those diamond-shaped freckles. It wouldn't hurt to try to get to know him and his preferences beforehand. I'll think about it, Yui muttered, blushing red. Setsuna gaped at Yui, admittedly surprised that her offer wasn't immediately rejected. A smile couldn't help but worm its way across her face. The sounds of police sirens cut off their talk. The two girls noticed a high-speed car blitzing through from the road in front of them, their quick glances spotting a bunch of robbers making off with ill-acquired bags of cash, being chased by police officers. Well, look alive, girls. Action awaits, Majestic said, rings of energy forming around his wrists. You girls think you can keep up? Setsuna smiled widely, filing her and Yui's conversation for later. You bet, Majestic Sensei. Setsuna exclaimed, her torso separating and floating above her lower half, which was likewise split, her legs from her hips now floating in the air. Sai, think you can give Min-Max and Hatram a ride? Cyclizer nodded, lowering onto all fours and waiting for Yui and Hatram. Yui nodded and hopped onto the Mount Pokemon's back, Hatram following suit onto Cyclizer's head. The dragon type momentarily shivered at the close contact with the fairy type. Well, keep up, girls, Majestic stated as the rings of energy from his wrist shot out and expanded into a large cone, with Majestic hopping onto it and riding it. You wanted excitement? For this next act, you get to watch a pro make a few lowlife's chances of success disappear. Majestic took to the sky following the criminals and police, Alakazam floating after his trainer. You heard the pro. Let's go catch some crooks, Setsuna exclaimed, telekinetically floating after Majestic. Yui and Hatram held on tight as Cyclizer took off, too, running down the street toward the action. To be a good pro, your presence must calm those in danger and bring them peace of mind. Capability and skill are important, yes, but there are other factors to consider. Best Jeanist as he stroked his brush along Ida's hair, his sidekicks standing to the side with barely concealed smirks on their faces. Same with Ida's Lucario and Best Jeanist's Excelgar. Your physical appearance, speech, and, most importantly, your actions must be elegant. You must give off the aura of a hero. As Best Jeanist finished and allowed Ida to look at his hair, the 1A student had mixed feelings, to say the least. Ida has always kept his hair short and neat, styling it similarly to Tensei's, and ensuring it wasn't long enough to obstruct his vision while running or get messed up underneath his helmet. Jeanist's redo of his hair fit his latter requirements, but the style was not what Ida was used to. Ida's dark blue hair was slicked back, running backwards to give off an aerodynamic design. Ida could see that it would fit well with his helmet's design, too, with the only flaw, in his opinion, being how it popped out in the back like the feathers of a bird Pokemon. To Ida, that aspect made him look ridiculous. Not that Best Jeanist's sidekicks would agree with him. Another perfect style, Best Jeanist, they exclaimed. Meanwhile, Ida's Lucario did his best to remain stoic and unreactive to Ida's change in hairstyle. However, the engine quirk user knew his Pokemon well enough that Lucario was doing his best not to bawl with laughter, catching the small twitches on the sides of his mouth. "I do not understand, best genist, sir," Ida muttered as he inspected his hair in the mirror further. "I usually wear my helmet with my suit. Why waste effort on a hairstyle if no one will see it?" "Usually is the key word there," best genist replied. While the anonymity of the mask is often a style in and of itself, a well-groomed and styled face and hair give the public a sense of comfort and security. If the people see their champions as respectful, charming idols, they will trust you more. Best genist turned to his sidekicks. "Speed Dresser, you may take off your helmet." Ida looked to the sidekick in question. Dressed in blue jeans and a simple baby blue denim dress shirt, Speed Dresser often obscured his face with his gray, winged helmet, which Ida admitted was similar to his and Tensei's, though leaned more on a knight aesthetic. The man removed his helmet to reveal a decently handsome man, his brown hairstyle similar to Ida's. "Your brother also removed his helmet and presented his appearance to the people," Best Genist continued. Ida tensed at the mention of his brother. He did not stop his service to society with simple deeds. He let his appearance say what words could not. The calm and kindness in his eyes, his posture, tall and imposing, but relaxed. His charming smile put troubled civilians at ease more than a stoic mask could offer. All Might's smile could calm the hearts of the most terrified victims and drive fear into the hearts of the worst of scum. Ida nodded, understanding what Best Genist meant. Ida always felt at ease when he saw All Might's signature smile and presence. The symbol of peace's very presence was a physical statement that everything would be alright. It calmed Ida a bit of his panic when he had arrived at UA from the attack on the USJ. However, once Best Genist mentioned the worst of scum, all his mind could picture was the one he considered the absolute worst, the fiend who put his brother in the hospital and crippled him for life. Additionally, "You will not be wearing your helmet during our patrols," Best Genist revealed. "Pardon?" Ida blinked, turning to face his obligated hero mentor rather than stare at his reflection. "But, sir, it is part of my costume. I wear it for protection and dash." "Yes, I am aware of what this helmet means to you, what your hero outfit as a whole is inspired by, or rather, who," Best Genist responded pointedly. "However, your actions and desires as of late do not fit the example of ingenium, of a pro. The face you hide when you wear this mask must reflect the one you bear outside, and so, unless in the case of an emergency, until your actions and appearance reflect that of a worthy pro, you are unworthy of this helm. Prove to me otherwise, Tenya Ida, that you deserve to take up your brother's legacy." Ida's stoic expression twitched, his eyes widening too far momentarily, his mouth twitching into a snarl before it fixed it, his posture rigid as stone till he corrected it. Yet despite these corrections, Ida knew they were for naught. He knew Best Genist saw them. He knew he could see them past the mask he was wearing even now, the mask that said he was willing to listen, to learn, when reality had his eyes darting for every possible exit, and his mind bided for the right time. Unworthy. He is right there. I know I'm not. Either the mask or the title, Ida admitted to himself. Best Genist's words are sound, and he means well, they all mean well. Ida's mind pictured Midoriya's and Yaoyorozu's worried expressions. Aizawa's show of vulnerability with his story. Guilt gnawed at him for his brief words, and the thoughts his mind lashed at them in his righteous anger. But they didn't understand. The hero killer is elusive, and there is a chance I wouldn't have found him if I tried. But this? Doing nothing while that butcher roams free? Getting lectured and caged like a whipped lillipup? Tensei's broken body taunted him again as Ida clenched his fists. I'm unworthy of the name Ingenium, of being a hero, if I stand around doing nothing, if I don't avenge him, Ida thought. Avenge, yes. Because I can't forget it didn't happen, and I can't forgive him. I never will. As Ida was stuck in his thought, Lucario's prior humor shriveled to dust. The aura Pokemon gazed at his trainer with sorrow and worry, capable of feeling the rage and torment churning like a storm at sea inside Tenya Ida through their bond. Lucario tried again and again to do anything to ease his master's pain. sharing a pulse of calming aura, directing Ida to vent his frustrations verbally to him, and even physical moments of intimacy. Nothing worked. Ida's rage was too deep, and Lucario's actions too feeble, his loyalty to following his trainer's path and orders overruling his own wishes and concerns. Lucario never felt more of a failure of a partner or a Pokemon than standing by and watching helplessly as his trainer spirals in front of his eyes. Serena groaned, teeth clenched tightly through the pain of her throbbing forehead and strained arms. In front of her position at the edge of a boat, a large load of seawater floated above the waves, warping and shifting into various shapes, yet rippled and sloshed unstably. After a few seconds more, the pain was too much and Serena gasped, letting go of her concentration. No sooner had she done so than the water fell slack, splashing into the sea from whence it came. Serena groaned loudly, smacking her hands onto the bars of the boat's sides. Damn it, Serena cursed. Ugh, come on, water. Work with me here. I don't think yelling at the water is the right way to get it to cooperate. Serena turned to see Azui walking toward her. Unless you think it's sentient. Is it? Serena sighed. No, it's not, Serena replied. Not as far as I've seen, and trust me, I've tried before. I'll take your word for it, Azui croaked. You finished your chores? I wouldn't be practicing with my quirk if I wasn't. Serena flinched from how snappish her reply sounded. You wouldn't be chit-chatting with you if I wasn't, Azui replied. You saw how Selkie gets if he thinks we're slacking off. Right, Serena nodded, turning her gaze back to the sea, trying to ignore the awkward tension she felt in the air with the lapping of the waves. Are you angry with me? Azui asked suddenly. What? Serena said, sputtering in response to the random question. You've been a bit snappish with me since we both accepted the same internship, and I know it's not from being tired, Azui replied, tilting her head and raising a finger to her chin in that adorable way that Serena couldn't help but find. Did I do something to upset you? What? No. I'm not mad at you, Azui said. Honest. Serena deflected, waving her hands in front of her, despite how heavy and tired they felt. Serena, I've dealt with two mischievous little siblings. I know a liar when I see one, Azui pointed out. Also, you didn't call me Tsu. You don't like to misname people you're on good terms with. Serena flinched, having been called out so easily. Serena looked away, her face furrowing in conflict. It's about Izuku, isn't it? Tsu asked, her question sounding too obvious to really be called a question. You're worried about him. Serena's facial tics gave Azui her answer, although only partially. It's hard not to be, Serena admitted. That dumbass always finds ways to get himself into trouble, usually breaking a limb or two. He was like that before you, eh? Azui asked. Not the whole bone-breaking stuff, but I had to be the one to take care of him when he started to get overly exhausted in his training, Serena said, shaking her head with a fond smile. Remember what I said about when Izuku and I first met? Yeah, Dagoba Beach. Azui nodded. I heard it was cleaned up by some unknown dash. Azui paused when she noticed Serena's smile. Azui's eyes widened. That was you too. Izuku, really? Serena corrected. He was cleaning up Dagoba Beach as strength training for UA's entrance exam. This was all before he awakened his quirk, so he was training himself up to go about it quirkless. You should have seen before he got all bulked up. He was decent when I first met him, but still skinny. It was the first time he ever got to find a place to train himself up without Dash. Serena cut herself off, but her sad frown returned. Without Bakugu and his lackeys ruining it for him, Azui finished for her. It took months before Izuku opened up to me about what happened to him. Serena continued, hurt and pain for Izuku welling in her eyes. He looked so broken when he did, and even worse when I accepted him. All of him. I was his first true friend. I helped him get out of that shell he was in, but he also helped me. Serena touched where Izuku would place his hand during their special promise ritual. He helped make me see that my quirk was something special, powerful, useful. He helped me figure out how to turn ice back into water. I don't think I would have done as well in the recommendation exam without him, and no matter how many times I disagree with him, he would always say that I helped him succeed, too. kept him from breaking himself. Serena's smile rose, lovingly, her mind picturing Izuku's goofy, blinding smile in the waves. "That humble dork," Serena muttered. "Makes it hard not to dash." Serena cut herself off again, but Azui answered for her again. "Hard not to fall in love with him," Siu stated. Serena blushed, opening her mouth to deny it, yet Azui's blank stare stopped her. "Serena, your crush on him is not exactly subtle. It's the class's most open secret ever," Siu revealed bluntly, making Serena blush crimson. "Second to the other most obvious secret ever." Serena blinked, suddenly confused. "Which is," she asked. "That the rest of the girls like him, too," Siu admitted. "Myself included." Serena froze, not saying anything as she stared at Siu blankly. "You can't deny that you noticed how we feel about him any more than we noticed how jealous you look when we give him any sort of affection," Azui continued boldly. "That's why I think you are mad at me." Serena didn't say anything, because anything other than a yes would have been the biggest lie she had ever spoken. "I see why you cherish him so much, why you're so protective of him, and I won't deny I'm envious of the bond you two share. But I can't deny either that I want something like that with him, too." Azui turned away from Serena for the first time, looking over at the waves, as if she could see Serena's mental image of Izuku in the waves, too. "Something more? Because he saved your life?" Serena asked, her tone charged with suspicion. "Yes, it did start that way," Azui answered honestly. "He was already interesting to me before the USJ, but after he saved me from Shigaraki, those feelings started to grow louder. I couldn't stop thinking about him. Like you, I worried it was some kind of hero worship." Azui's mouth rose to a small smile. "But then we went on our fishing trip, and I saw him fully. How respectful he was toward my parents. How sweetly he treated Samidare and Satsuki. The pain he locks behind that iron will of his. Every aspect of him made me love him more, and he didn't even try or put up a front of any kind. He was honest, caring, and heroic. And from then on, I knew my feelings weren't simply hero worship. They were real." Serena's mouth dropped slightly as she stared at Azui with wide eyes, the anger and suspicion hiding behind her eyes fading to a guilty, conflicted look. Serena saw how Izuku suffered from people leading him on, and she thought she was the exception, that only she could see the true Izuku Midoriya and be the only one to truly appreciate him. Azui's honest confession of her feelings blew that sentiment out of the water. And if Azui's feelings were true, was it the same with the other girls, too? But then, what was Serena to do now? "You know I also had a friend before you, eh?" Serena snapped her gaze back to Azui. "Huh," Serena voiced. "Her name's Habuko Mongoose, and she was the only real, close friend I had before you, eh?" Azui continued. "My parents travel around a lot for their work, so I had to be the one to take care of my siblings. They were my siblings and they needed me. My parents were counting on me, so I didn't complain. I liked taking care of them, but I didn't have much time in my life for friends or hanging out after school. My siblings are precious to me, and I wouldn't change a thing if I could, but I can't lie and say I wasn't lonely." Serena's heart broke at that, her own past loneliness before Izuku creeping up in the back of her mind. Serena could also relate to the sentiment of feeling that her parents needed her, specifically her father. "Then, I noticed that someone was stalking me at school, always shyly watching me from the corner, but never interacting. That was Habuko," Azui revealed. It turned out she was lonely too. Her mutant quirk and its heteromorphic properties made it hard for her to make friends. "I didn't mind her stalking. I understood how scared she was, how lonely it must have been for her. Then one day, I asked her if she wanted to be friends. She agreed, and we became the best of friends. Then came graduation, and we went to separate schools, with me here now at UA," Azui said, a sad frown on her face. "When I learned that she was going to be by herself, I was worried. I thought she would be lost without me, get hurt, be lonely again. Then, I heard she made friends at her new school, and I was relieved. A weight was lifted from my chest, but above all, I was happy for her. We still keep in contact with each other, but I'm happy she found her way." Azui looked back at Serena, It's hard to make such close friends with someone and not want to stay close to them, to want to protect them, especially someone you love. But at times like that, you have to have a little faith in them, that you did your best to get them out of their shell, and trust that they can make it on their own. It doesn't mean they can't be your friends anymore, but that you trust and love them enough to grow without you. Serena felt a tear slip down her cheek, eyes staring at Azui, yet gazing at something beyond her. She saw Izuku as he was when she first met him, meek, timid, lovable, and then transformed into the confident, strong, heroic teen that was always there. Serena saw Izuku smile at her as he always does, with all the love and trust he has for her, silently promising to always be there for her, before turning around, donned in his hero suit, running toward a great unknown with his best friend's support, carrying him onward, unafraid. Serena smiled softly, nodding. "I'm sorry, Tsu," Serena apologized, "that I thought so little of you to believe you only liked Izuku for something so superficial. I feel horrible. I guess when it comes to Isa Dash." "It's okay, Serena." Tsu smiled back at her. "Jealousy makes people not think straight. And you shouldn't be sorry about how you feel toward Izuku or scared. It's natural. Plus, I was being a bit selfish for trying to take up his attention." "No, you weren't." Serena shook her head. "You shouldn't be sorry either for being a tad selfish or wanting to be with the guy you like. And besides, this is Aizu we're talking about. The dork has enough love for all of us." "Enough love to date all of us?" Azui asked. Serena froze once more, her brain shutting down momentarily. When it restarted, Serena stared at Azui with a clear understanding. "You're talking about sharing Aizu," Serena realized. "Romantically. Us, Ochiko, Yamamo, Nina, Toru." Azui nodded. "I'm sure that my girl also likes Sue, and Jiro isn't far behind." "You honestly think that would work?" Serena asked seriously. "It's the most logical play without breaking anyone's heart, and as you said, Zu has enough love for everyone." Sue pointed out. "I'd argue that's the perfect way to break everyone's heart the minute it all falls apart," Serena retorted. "It's a risk, yes, but isn't it always when it comes to love?" Tsu asked. Serena had no real retort to that point, so she brought up another of her concerns. "And you don't think this is taking advantage of Aizu?" Serena asked, "Forcing him into this arrangement because we all want him?" Azui paused, a flash of guilt showing in her otherwise blank eyes. "It does sound selfish, doesn't it?" Azui admitted. "To want for all of us to be happy? To spoil Zu with all the joy and love we have, and have us get spoiled in return with such a great guy." A small smirk rose from the corner of Serena's lips. "Well, when you put it like that," Serena chuckled, Azui following along with her own. "We don't have to decide right now if you don't want, and without the rest of the girls," Azui suggested. "This decision affects them too, and it would be too inconsiderate of us to decide this for them. It's just, I'd rather share Zu with you all than not have him at all." Serena blinked, turning back to the waves, contemplating. Finally, Serena sighed. "All right, we'll talk about it with the rest of the girls," Serena said. "At least those who have a clear interest in Aizu, not because you speculated." "Deal," Azui consented. Serena and Azui smiled at each other, the awkward tension between the two fading. "Hey, Froppy, Aquamarine." The two jumped at the familiar voice. The two turned to the side to see none other than their pro-hero mentor, the sea rescue hero and captain of the Oki Mariner, Selkie, walk towards them. The pro-hero's most defining feature had to be his mutant quirk, which gave him the appearance of a darker, more spotted version of a Spiel in humanoid form, with gray skin littered with black spots, gray whiskers protruding from his cheeks, red markings around his eyes, and a gray beard. The heteromorphic hero wore a navy blue swimsuit that hugged his muscular physique, unzipped enough to reveal most of his chest, patches of black striped silver on his arms and legs, and black accents lining the suit. His large, webbed gray hands were bare, a red stylized S on his left shoulder on a field of white, retractable black flippers by his feet, and yellow goggles on his head. "Why are you girls just sitting there? Shouldn't a frog be jumping to get her work done? Or a girl with water powers be great at cleaning a deck?" Selkie inquired pointedly. And serious. Selkie looked up to see the woman in question leaning on the side of the ship's helm. I thought I told you to keep on top of them. No slacking of either. I finished cleaning the front deck, Captain Sir. Azui replied, unbothered. I just came here to see if Serena needed a little help. Finished here, too, Serena replied, following Azui's lead. I was working on my quirk, and Azui was giving me some helpful advice. Serena bumped Azui's shoulder with her own, the two sharing a knowing smile. And I was totally supervising both of their progress properly from up here, Sirius said as she walked down the stairs to the three of them. Selkie's sidekick was a young woman with short, shoulder-length light blue hair and smart blue eyes, wearing a sleeveless white sailor uniform. Her collar was dark blue and double-trimmed. Her skirt was a short three-piece version, buttoned on either side. A loose red scarf was strapped to her collar, a white and blue flat hat sat on her head, and she wore thigh-high black boots. Sirius's ears were shaped like large, blue fins. Oh, is that right? Sorry, guess I jumped to conclusions, Selkie muttered, suddenly dropping his serious demeanor and looking quite abashed, rubbing the back of his head. My apologies, young ladies. My bad. Just as suddenly, Selkie tilted his head, smiling widely, and raised his large hands near his face, making a kawaii face and speaking in a squeaky voice. Forgive me. Silence hung in the air for a few seconds. Selkie dropped the act and threw his head back, laughing boisterously. I guess I'm too cute for words. Selkie chuckled. Yeah, they're real dumbfounded, Sirius said sarcastically, a small blush of secondhand embarrassment on her cheeks. I agree. Serena's sweat dropped. His physique is just too macho for that to be cute. Adorable, Azui thought. Izuku yelped as yet another small, incomplete aura sphere blew up in his face, the smoke blowing away to reveal the scuffed-up, annoyed expression on Izuku's face. And another one bites the dust, Pikachu remarked cheekily. What's this, the 39th time? Ugh, I just can't figure out what I'm getting wrong here. Izuku groaned, ruffling his messy green hair in frustration. Hey, calm yourself, Riley warned from his meditation spot. Frustration will get you nowhere. I'd argue that frustration has helped a lot of people figure stuff out, Izuku muttered. And how has it gone for you so far? Riley replied. Izuku's silence was an answer in and of itself. You've already made significant progress for a beginner, Riley pointed out. Beginners often blow themselves up with their own incomplete aura spheres? Izuku asked. No, that's totally a you thing, Riley replied, cheekily grinning as Izuku let out a huff of annoyance. But most beginners can barely make a flicker of energy form. The fact that you can form a near-complete version is unique, let alone use an incomplete one as an explosion. Can't you just tell me how to do it? Izuku asked. If all chosen can use aura the same way, don't you have some more pointers to give? Ain't how it works, kid. Riley shook his head. The way each chosen experiences and sees their own aura is completely different from another. Like a person's mind or a quirk, no one person's sense of aura is the same. Aura is life in its basest form, and life is ever-changing, different, and unique to all. Only you can know how it feels. Then why all the training, meditation, and sensing exercises? Izuku questioned. To help you understand it, to feel how your aura relates to you, how you envision it, Riley stated. Tell me, your quirk, aura force, how does it feel to you? How do you visualize using it? Izuku hid the barest wince at the official name of his quirk and how deeply ironic it was now that he actually can use his own aura outside the cultivated aura, inside one for all. Still, as he recalled how he envisions using the inherited quirk, Izuku blushed. Well, it's actually kind of embarrassing, Izuku muttered. Oh, come on, kid. It can't be as bad as some of the ones I've heard, Riley replied, chuckling when remembering when Ryukyu told him that using her quirk felt like awakening the slumbering dragon deep within her. Riley didn't know what nearly killed him back when he heard it. His laughter over how dramatically ridiculous that sounded, or the blushing, embarrassed fury of Ryuko Tatsuma. Izuku sighed, bracing himself. I imagine myself like an egg in a microwave, Izuku confessed. Riley and Lucas stared at Izuku blankly, the two not saying a word for several seconds. Just as Izuku was about to ask them if they were okay, a snicker broke out of Riley's clenched teeth. Soon after, both Aura Guardian and Izuku's Aura partner broke down in laughter. Luca did his best to cover his mouth with his paws, but Izuku could still hear the laughter in his mind and see the spasming of the Pokemon's body. Riley did not care to hide his amusement, throwing his head back and laughing to the heavens, obnoxiously. Ha 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 ha. Oh man, kid, I give. I was so wrong. Riley continued laughing, clutching at his sides. I'm so glad I didn't put money on that bet. That's the most ridiculous one I've ever heard. I owe Ryuko an apology. Ha 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 ha. Izuku's face burned crimson. I know it sounds stupid, but it's worked for me so far. Izuku weakly defended himself. My body can't handle the full power of my quirk, so it's like an egg or a pastry getting blasted with too much heat till it explodes or gets burned. So for me, at my current limit, I adjust the power and heat, channel it throughout my body evenly, and I can use my quirk without breaking my limbs. Riley coughed, pounding his chest to get the rest of his laughter out. Okay, well, when you put it like that, it does make sense, Riley admitted. Anyway, how you see your quirk, a strength-enhancing one, may be seen completely differently by someone else. We all visualize and think things differently from others, even on the most basic stuff. Izuku nodded, remembering how differently and poorly all might reference how he used one for all. The same is true for Aura, too, Riley said, raising his hands till they drew near each other. Breathing deeply, Riley concentrated, and Izuku could feel it, the rush of energy flowing through the air, through Riley, and coalescing into a solid sphere of blue energy between his hands. Whoa! Izuku gasped at the sight. To me, Aura is like light, vibrant, active, all around us, even in the darkest of days or in the deepest shadows. A light, both inner and outer, that can be guided, harnessed, and emitted, Riley said, rolling the aura sphere around his hands, even spinning it on his fingers like a basketball. The old man described his like the essence of the earth, with Nijire, the wind, sky, and lightning. Riley threw his arms out. The aura sphere responded and blasted out in a wave of blue light. As it brushed past Izuku and his Pokemon, they all let out an involuntary shiver. Even Pokemon can see it differently. Luca, if you please. Izuku looked to the Riolu, who stood up from his meditative position. Luca brought his palms together, humming as it glowed with a blue aura around him. Moving his palms away, an aura sphere swirled and manifested in Luca's palms before the Pokemon launched it forward, striking and exploding a wooden dummy to pieces. Amazing! Izuku gasped again, zooming towards his new Pokemon, circling and gazing at his new Pokemon in awe and curiosity. I've never seen a Riolu use Aura Sphere before. I always thought they could never learn it until they become Lucario. It's similar to how Eevee knows Heal Pulse, yet not at the same time. None of Eevee's evolutions can learn Hella Pulse either, but with you, Luca, it's like you learn the move early. Is it hard to form or natural? Can you only do it a few times before you get tired? Does it exhaust you more than other moves? Luca blinked, unable to glimpse his trainer in one direction before he switched and moved to another spot. His ears likewise struggled to keep up with the influx of awe-filled questions sprouting from the green-haired boy. Luca chuckled nervously, rubbing his head. Dear Arceus, are you sure you're not Nijire's secret little brother or something? Riley asked, cleaning out his ears, exaggeratingly. Thankfully, his comment helped break Izuku out of his questioning. Anyway, yeah, Luca here is a special kind of Riolu, only one of its kind that we've seen that can use Aura Sphere as fluently as Lucario. It speaks to how uniquely powerful Luca is, and you can imagine how desirable such a trait is to the wrong kind of people. Izuku froze, looking at Luca with a new, sympathetic light. That must be why Luca has all those scars, Izuku thought. Hesitantly, Izuku placed his scarred hand on Luca's shoulder. The fighting-type Pokemon smiled softly at his trainer, putting his paw over Izuku's hand. So, Midoriya, what does your aura feel like to you? Riley asked, staring intently at him. Izuku paused, contemplating the question before lying in a lotus position. Closing his eyes, Izuku breathed in deeply, searching deep down into his aura. Memories flowed past him, each drawing the familiar feeling he was looking for. The first time he intentionally used his aura at Lake Verity, his first use of aura force. First in the sports festival's second event, the surge of energy, the phantom flames, and the blue lightning when he faced against Shinso, and his last-ditch attack against Todoroki. In all those moments, the same image came to his mind, one that he envisioned right now. A storm, Izuku revealed. "I see a storm, wild, lumbering alive." Riley said nothing, staring steadfastly and intently at Izuku, his senses picking something up. It feels powerful, destructive even, but also sacred, passionate, important. Izuku could see that storm in his mind, a swirl of crackling clouds, bursting with energy. But at the center, a fire, bright, ethereal, everything. Izuku felt like the storm coalesced and gathered around the flame, like it was protecting it while a part of it. 2. Your center, your core, Riley explained, his voice soft and steady so as not break Izuku's concentration. "And how did you harness it before?" "Pushing past the storm, thrusting my hands into the flame, letting the energy rush into me," Izuku answered, remembering the moments when he harnessed this power, even if one of those instances felt like someone else did it instead. "That may have worked before, but you're looking at it all wrong," Riley said, evenly. "Aura, your aura, is a part of you. It isn't a separate thing to overcome or demand. It's me," Izuku finished, his mind's eye gazing into the blue flames from within. He imagined himself walking into the storm, energy crackling all over him, his body feeling heated, ablaze even, but Izuku paid it no mind. "It's all of me, who I am. All my traits, my faults, the essence of my being." Izuku's mental self emerged from the storm, the lightning following him, breathing his inner self like his quirk. The storm, the energy, the fire all me. Izuku raised his hand toward the ethereal flame, but instead of grasping it like before, he held his hand out, inviting, accepting. The flames responded, rushing down Izuku's arm and into his chest, into his heart, and throughout his whole body. The storm surged inward, wrapping itself around Izuku, feeling like both a comforting embrace and a possessive grasp. The sensation, the rush, the energy. Izuku never felt more alive, more complete than he was now. Consciously, Izuku raised his hands again, swirling them around an invisible shape, feeling the storm and flame respond in turn, flowing throughout his body, into his hands, and then out into the world outside. Izuku felt something form, something solid, vibrant, alive. When Izuku opened his eyes, squinting at the light of the outside world, his eyes met Riley's, pleased, smug, and proud. The green-haired boy registered the shade of blue light blanketing Riley's face, and Izuku looked down at what lay between his hands, an aura sphere, complete and steady. Izuku's shocked eyes looked toward his Pokemon, registering their shocked faces that quickly morphed into proud and awed smiles. Shelgon nodded, his sharp eyes proud and accepting. Froka's mouth had dropped, and his eyes were wide like his, before he composed himself, clasping his webbed paws together and bowed, honorably and respectfully. Combusken's beak curved upward at its ends, a proud, warm smile, crossing her arms and nodding at him. Pikachu's jaw looked so slack, it looked ready to fall off and hit the floor, the corners of his mouth twitching upwards, as it turned into a dumbfounded smile. Lucas stared at him in awe, alternating between the aura sphere and Izuku himself, before his shocked expression morphed into jubilant glee. Finally, Eevee's grin was wide and bright, his tail swishing back and forth joyfully. Izuku looked back at the aura sphere in his hands, carefully maintaining the energy steady, assured that its accidental explosion would be far more painful than his incomplete version. Recalling Riley's and Luca's examples, Izuku pondered what to do with it. Deciding, Izuku gently tossed the aura sphere into the air, where it floated slowly upward like a lantern, before its solid state dissolved into motes of light, falling and floating around them all like a field of glittering blue stars. Izuku looked back at Riley Aaron to see his Aura Guardian mentor giving him a shit-eating grin. "Not bad, kid," Riley said proudly. "Not bad at all." Izuku's softly agape mouth curved into a wide, blinding smile. The sunset bathed the skies above UA in orange, the setting sun casting shadows that spread slowly up the main building's front. Detective Sakachi walked alongside Toshinori Yagi through the halls of UA, the orange sunset glaring at them through the windows as they made their way to the private teacher's lounge. "I'm sorry for showing up unexpectedly," Toshinori said. Sakachi apologized again, placing his hat over his chest. "Nonsense. It's always a pleasure to see you, Sakachi." Toshinori waved away the apology with a smile. A friendly face and the promise of a conversation sounds like the perfect break. "I thought all the hero students left for their internship week, including the first years?"
Sakachi asked.
"Yeah, but that doesn't mean Misa's taking it easy on me," All Might replied. "He's making me plan out a more concrete lesson plan with Professor Teicher for the next term after the final exams, as well as backup lessons in case of any emergencies or last-minute changes. Even without the students here, there's no rest for the newbie. Glad to see you're taking your role as teacher so seriously." Sakachi chuckled. "Yeah, I guess." Toshinori rubbed the back of his head. "Also, not every first-year hero student has gone to an internship." As Toshinori said this, the two froze as they picked up on loud yelling out from a corner. "I don't need to thank you for shit, dog breath. The principal said I'm stuck with you until the timer rings, and I don't need to listen to your bullshit afterward. That disrespectful attitude will get you nowhere in the real world. Boy, you better think carefully about the kind of hero you want to be." The second, more growling voice was cut off by the sound of a door slamming shut, muffling it. From around the corner, Toshinori and Sakachi saw Katsuki Bakugu stomping their way, his glare solely focused on the floor as if it had personally offended him. Toshinori frowned at the sight of the boy who had tormented Midoriya for most of their lives. That urge to once more transform into his All Might visage and talk the boy down for his actions rose again in his chest. Bakugu appeared unaware of the two's existence until he spotted the edges of their shoes. Bakugu voiced, raising his glare to meet Sakachi's and Yagi's. "What do you two geezers want?" "Young Bakugu," Toshinori greeted, swallowing his personal feelings down like battery acid. "I see you've just finished an anger management session with Hound Dog." It sounded passionate. Bakugu raised an eyebrow at him. "Do I know you or something?" Bakugu questioned, the urge to continue and call the skin-and-bones-looking man for what he looked like dancing on the tip of his tongue, only to get bitten down. "Not likely," All Might half-lied. "I'm Toshinori Yagi. I work as an assistant to All Might from his agency." Bakugu's eyes widened before a satisfied grin began to creep greedily across his face. "I see. About damn time." Bakugu chuckled. "Pardon?" Toshinori raised a confused eyebrow. "You came to see me about the shit that I got stuck in. All Might sent you to tell me he wants to take me on as an intern, right?" Bakugu assumed, his tone sounding more arrogant and self-assured with every word. "I knew the big guy would see that this whole punishment thing is total crap. He knows I'm the better student, the one that's going to surpass him and become the next #1 hero." Toshinori couldn't remember the last time he was this flabbergasted by someone spewing out the most insane, inaccurate statement he had ever heard in his life. Toshinori didn't know whether to laugh awkwardly and ask if it was some kind of joke that Bakugu was telling, or smack the boy upside the head and hope that it would restart his clearly offline brain. Thankfully, Toshinori did neither. "That's quite the imagination you have there, young Bakugu, but that's not why I'm here." Toshinori shook his head. "In fact, All Might's stance on your punishment is that it was well-deserved, and he has no intention of taking on anyone as an intern at this time." Bakugu's prideful enthusiasm melted before his eyes morphed into cold outrage. "Huh? Have you gone senile or something, old man?" Bakugu questioned, his tone returning to its hostile roots. Only now the rage in those eyes looked close to bursting. "Excuse me?" Tashinori replied, his restraint cracking enough for offense to make its way into his tone. "I don't have to excuse shit. I'm sick and tired of being told to excuse myself for doing the right thing." Bakugo snapped, vitriol exploding out as viciously as his regular explosions. "I get punished for showing those extras their place, for trying to show that cheat Deku that he doesn't belong here, and that snitch gets away with a slap on his wrist, gets to flaunt that pseudo-legend that should have belonged to me, and have get to pansy up to All Might, while I have to listen to some psycho mud about being a better person, control my temper, and recognize my wrongs?" Tashinori's hands clenched into a fist, knuckles cracking. "You think that everything you did to them was right?" Yagi hissed out in disbelief. "Of course I do," Bakugo yelled, his voice cracking under what almost looked like desperation. "The strong stay on top and thrive. The weak and useless get left in the dust. That's why All Might is #1, because he never loses, never gives up, never apologizes for his strength. That's the way the world works." Tashinori felt something beneath the rage boiling up to the surface from all of Bakugo's words. Shame. It filled Tashinori with shame and horror that his example could be taken and morphed into such a hateful, misguided rhetoric to see the raging, foul beast his example cultivated. Steam began to hiss out from Tashinori's fists, something Tsukachi, who had been standing by, silent and distasteful of this boy, noticed. "So, do your goddamn job. Go back to All Might and tell him to sue this shit school to the ground if that's what it takes to dash." Bakugo's march toward Tashinori, unaware of the true identity of the man before him, was suddenly blocked by the detective. "That's quite enough from you, young man," Tsukachi said, glaring warningly. "Know that any hostile action or misuse of your quirk will result in serious consequences for you. And what extra are you supposed to be?" Bakugo questioned, challengingly. "Detective Naomasa said Tsukachi." Tsukachi said, pulling out and flashing his badge at Bakugo. "Any more questions?" Bakugo froze, eyes locked on the badge for a few more seconds before scoffing. Realizing this was more trouble than it was worth, Bakugo huffed and marched around the two adults. However, just before the two were sure it was over, Bakugo stopped in his tracks. "Hey, old man, tell me, what's the deal between All Might and Deku anyway?" Bakugo asked, his back still turned to the two adults. Tashinori tensed, stamping out the brief swell of panic. "I don't know anyone called Deku," Tashinori responded, his tone firm, leaking a bit of anger. Yeah, right, you know who I'm talking about. Izuku Midoriya." Bakugo snarled out the name like it was a curse. Just what connection does he have with All Might? Tashinori paused, considering his words, before responding with, "Izuku Midoriya is one of the students in your class, 1A. All Might says he's a good kid and a role model to learn from. He says he'll make a fantastic pro. That's all." Bakugo said nothing, standing in place, yet Yagi and Tsukachi could see the slight shake in Bakugo's shoulders. "Whatever. Keep lying all you want. It doesn't matter. Only one thing does," Bakugo growled, turning his head, directing his ruby-red glare at the two. "He's never going to surpass me. I'll be the one to become #1 and surpass All Might. Not him. I'll prove to them why I'm the one All Might should look at. And I'm never going to stop." With that said, Bakugo marched off, with no idea that the man he idolized had been right in front of him. Said hero watched Bakugo walk away, a firm frown on his face. "You're right about one thing, young Bakugo. I am watching you, just not in the way you would like," All Might thought. A few moments after Bakugo faded from view, Tashinori let out a deep breath. "I'm sorry you had to see that, old friend. The kid is strong, but his head is not on straight. I'm sorry you had to hear him lying through all that." Tashinori turned to see that Tsukachi was still staring at where Bakugo had left, a deep frown marring his face. "What's the matter?" "The things the kid said, they weren't lies," Tsukachi revealed, eyes narrowing from where Bakugo disappeared from view. "Every word the kid said, he meant it. He believed that everything he said was the truth. That's what worries me the most. Present Mike, Detective Naomasa Tsukachi of the police force. Quirk truth teller. He has a sixth sense that tells me whenever someone is telling the truth. Whether it is factual or not, if a person lies and knows they are lying, he'll know it. Tashinori's frown deepened like his friend's, gazing back where Bakugo had vanished, an ill feeling rumbling in his gut. You and Niz is still working on your investigation? Tashinori whispered. It's progressing. Tsukachi nodded, catching the silent meaning for secrecy. Anyway, should we continue discussing the Mogami case more privately? Tsukachi raised his voice, loud and clear. Tashinori raised an eyebrow at the random name, but nodded. Sure, this way. Tashinori agreed, raising his voice in turn, gesturing Tsukachi to follow him. The symbol of peace did his best not to look behind him, unsure if his suspicion was accurate, and his mind troubled by Tsukachi's words. But Tashinori knew one thing. Regardless of what the boy believes, I know the truth. Izuku Midoriya won't just surpass Bakugo or me, he already has. The two continued their way to the private teacher's lounge, while the ash-blonde teen, hidden around the corner, clicked his teeth, disappointed and storming off. Tashinori set down Tsukachi's tea on the table. I have to apologize again for young Bakugo's behavior. Tsukachi, Tashinori apologized again. You can see for yourself why he got into this punishment to begin with. It's fine, Toshi. I understand. Tsukachi waved away the apology, watching as the off-duty pro sat down on the couch, with himself on the stool across from him. I'm glad I could defuse the situation before things got more intense there. Tsukachi picked up the tea and took a sip. So, is it true? Your investigation into Aldera and Bakugo's history, it's progressing well? Tashinori asked. As well as we can do without being nondiscreet about it. Tsukachi sighed, setting down the cup. The investigation was given more resources and support recently, so we should have all the evidence we need before the final exams. Any reason why you got the green light to weed out the bastards? All Might asked, curious. Honestly, I shouldn't say. It's confidential and suspicious at best, and a theory at worst. Tsukachi replied, his smile dropping. I have half a mind not to tell you specifically. Oh, how so? Worried I get involved and smash the building to the ground. All Might asked with a chuckle. When All Might said the words and Tsukachi's frown remained, the former frowned in turn. Hit the nail on the head, didn't I? The footage Nizu provided when he hacked into the Alder Principal's office was disturbing. Tsukachi relented. After the sports festival, the man practically ransacked his office for files and tried deleting all evidence of tampering with Midoriya's grades and his and Bakugo's academic records. You'll forgive me if that's all I'll say on that front, given your personal history with Midoriya. All Might's shaking hand and cup gave himself away, setting the drink down. You're right, All Might admitted. If I hear any more, I fear I'll do worse than smash that building to the ground. We wouldn't want our symbol of peace to commit cold-blooded murder. Now would we? Tsukachi snorted, humorlessly. No, that's not the worst thing I'll do. All Might shook his head. It's what Inko Midoriya would do once I tell her everything. Your successor mother should make me worry more than Japan's #1 pro? Tsukachi raised a skeptical eyebrow. Let me put it to you this way, old friend. Young Midoriya is a whiz at analyzing a person's quirk and all the ways it can be used, right? All Might began. Tsukachi nodded. Well, his mother's quirk was no exception. Small attraction, a seemingly low-level telekinetic quirk that allows Inko the ability to attract small objects to her. Theoretically, the only limit is Inko's imagination and the size limit to be too large an object. What else would be theoretical? Tsukachi paused a sip of his tea, fully immersed in where All Might was going with this. According to young Midoriya, cells, bacteria, veins, organs, all could fall underneath the category of small objects, All Might said in air quotes. So, you can imagine what a vengeful mother on a warpath could do if she, theoretically, chooses to attract a sorry bastard's liver or nether regions out from their bodies. Tsukachi said nothing, slowly placing his cup back on the table, losing all sense of appetite, and crossed his legs, protectively. After regaining his composure, Tsukachi chuckled. So, it's Inko between you two, huh? Tsukachi inquired, a teasing grin on his face. Making the kid your successor not close enough for you? Shut up, jackass, Tashinori grumbled, sipping his drink to hide the blush on his cheeks. Tsukachi chuckled. Sorry, it's just nice to see you like this, Tsukachi said, a sincere smile on his suddenly weary face. Unworried, content, happy. For so long, I thought you'd work yourself to death being a hero, but now, I have cause to hope that you will think about the special someone waiting for you when the time to hang up the cape comes due. Makes me wish I didn't come here to ruin it. Tashinori smiled back at his old friend before registering the last sentence and frowning, concerned. What is it you really came here for, Tsukachi? All Might asked seriously. Is it about the investigation with the League? Tsukachi nodded, frowning. There were several villains who attacked the USJ, but the one we're most puzzled about is the one you fought, Tsukachi said. The one they call Nomu. All Might's hands clenched as he recalled the beaked monstrosity and everything Shigaraki admitted about his so-called anti-All Might killer. What did you find out about it? All Might asked. Did you analyze his DNA? Tsukachi hesitated, frowning down at the table. Let me clear about something first. We aren't officially asking you to help us with the case. Technically, this is a leak, Tsukachi admitted, his gaze meeting Tashinori's again. But after what we found out, I thought I should let you know. It could help us figure out who is really behind the League of Villains. Tashinori stiffened, that ill feeling in his gut returning, more foreboding than with Bakugo, but All Might nodded, urging Tsukachi to continue. After several attempts at interrogation, we realized that Noma can't speak and shows no reaction to anything, Tsukachi explained, remembering seeing the hulking, exposed brain creature in a padded cell, restrained by a straitjacket and various wires. It's as though he literally can't think for himself, no matter what is going on around him. Yeah, from what the student said, the only thing Noma did that appeared to be out of its own accord was to protect Shigaraki from Midoriya. All Might detailed the brief encounter between his successor and the Noma before he arrived. Afterward and before, Nomu only acted when ordered by Shigaraki or Kirojiri. I suspect Kirojiri may have ordered Nomu to protect Shigaraki rather than it being a conscious act on the guy's part. Tsukachi nodded, taking the information in before taking out a picture from his pocket. As for his identity, we discover he used to be this man, Tsubo Mogami. Tsukachi revealed as All Might stared at the mugshot of a dirty blonde-haired man with large pouty lips and eyes that looked hauntingly familiar to Noma's, only less emotionless, lifeless even. He used to be a low-level thug with a record of assault and extortion. Mogami. Tashinori repeated the name. That's the guy you mentioned back in the hall. Yeah, but that's only half the puzzle, Tsukachi added. And the other half? Yagi inquired further. Our reports show that he has been altered drastically. When we analyzed his genetic makeup, we discovered 4 other people's DNA, Tsukachi revealed grimly. Combining multiple DNA samples to make this guy? Can he even be qualified as human anymore? Tashinori muttered. You aren't far off. This is where it gets truly disturbing. Tsukachi flinched. It wasn't just human DNA we found in him. We also found Pokemon DNA. Tashinori's breath caught in his throat, recalling Shigaraki's boast about Nomu being part Pokemon and how it grew an extra pair of arms. Macamp DNA. All Might answered. Exactly, Tsukachi nodded. When we pulled his trainer records, we found he did have a Macamp, whose DNA, if not more, was added into him. By all intents and purposes, this thing is a Pokemon/human hybrid. Though when we attempted, rather reluctantly, to try using a Pokeball on it, nothing happened. Pokeballs are designed only to capture Pokemon. They are unable to capture anything with a passing human genetic code, so the Nomu's human DNA kept it from being sucked into the Pokeball. Disgusting, All Might growled, gazing back at the man that the Nomu had once been. Mutilating Pokemon like this, and how it suffers still. Suffers still. Tsukachi raised an eyebrow. I didn't report this officially. I didn't want the extra attention on him. But Midoriya had something else to share about the Nomu that he told Professor Taisher and me. All Might explained. When he fought the Nomu, He struck it on the head and experienced a rush of images, feelings, memories, he theorized. All Might looked down at the photo. He saw a large-lipped man, a Macamp, and felt and saw the process where they turned into Nomu. He saw it happen? Tsukachi explained, almost hopping out of his seat. How in detail? He only saw faint images, bloody hands from both this Mogami and Macamp, blurring together, but not much else. All Might answered grimly. He thought he heard Machamp's thoughts calling to him, asking for help. Izuku thought it had some connection with One for All, so we didn't say anything. Sorry. Tsukachi sighed, disappointed. No, I understand. I get the secrecy. Tsukachi replied. True, it's not much, and these images very well couldn't accurately describe how Mogami and Macamp were fused. Truly, we don't know what methods were used to do this, other than drugs and a lot of pain it seems, but from what we do know, to simplify it, he's modified so that his body can hold multiple quirks at once. Shock absorption and regeneration. All Might nodded. I won't be surprised if even a portion of his super strength came from a quirk, too, and not just from Macamp. His lack of brain activity likely comes from the burden of this transformation. However, if what Midoriya said is true, it may not be fully, Tsukachi added. Perhaps there is some imprint, some vestige of the man before and the Pokemon, or the Pokemon's differing biology may inadvertently allow for a slight amount of their consciousness to survive where humans wouldn't. Honestly, I'm not sure what fate would be worse, All Might admitted. He didn't know whether it would have been better if they were 100% mindless monsters, or if a small part of them survived only to endure such a... As horrible as this all is, there is something that worries us even more, Tsukachi continued. He shouldn't have more than one quirk. Even if new DNA is added, that shouldn't give a person multiple powers, not unless the quirks in question were completely and directly integrated into someone's body, like One for All. The blue eyes within the sunken sockets of All Might's eyes widened, a horrible dread washing over him like a tidal wave. It's possible the culprit behind Nomu and the League as a whole could be someone with the power to grant different, multiple quirks onto other people, Tsukachi revealed. All Might let out a horrified gasp, rising from his seat. No, it can't be. All Might yelled in denial. I squashed his head. I felt his heart give out. It can't be him. Given the evidence and that man's history of achieving the impossible, I think it's a reasonable conclusion, Tsukachi replied, eyes weary and hesitant, as if he himself didn't want this to be true. That's why I came. I had to let you know, immediately. Numbly, Tashinori Yagi walked toward the window, looking out at evening Mizutofu, yet his gaze drifted into memory. Of a raven-haired woman with a blinding smile. Of messy white hair and eyes of pure evil. When he squashed that man's head like a grape, yet left behind a hole in his side. The scar on his side burned. Steam rose from his clenched fists and transforming body. No, it can't be. It's not possible. All Might growled, glaring out the window, teeth clenching in a deep scowl. It can't be him. No matter what he said, All Might couldn't escape from the truth that burned his side. Meanwhile, in an unknown location, two of Kurogiri's warp gates opened up into a large blank white room, segmented black lines outlining the square tiles of the floor, save for the large Pokemon battlefield in the middle, stretching out to near the ends of the room. Overlooking the field on an observation deck, hidden behind one-way glass, 4 figures stood in attendance. The two most noticeable ones were Kurogiri and Kuro, the latter still wearing his obscuring black cloak, arms crossed, and smile wicked and full of amusement. The third was a short, old man, his figure wide, head bald, a fuzzy mustache on his face, and dressed in a white lab coat and golden-rimmed, round, green-lensed glasses. The most obscured by the shadows of the room was the final figure, yet the shadows could not hide his neat black suit, his tall and imposing presence, or the menacing, evil grin on his face. Out of the portal stepped Tomura Shigaraki and Hero Killer Stain, each one on opposite sides of the battlefield, glaring at each other, hands reaching for the pokeballs strapped to their belts. It appears Shigaraki and the Hero Killer are ready, Master, Kurogiri stated. This should be fun. Kuro snickered. I still feel that we should shadow fight one of the boy's Pokemon, the doctor insisted. Ensure that the boy wins and earns the hero killer's loyalty. The outcome of this battle is already decided. Giving Tamura shadow Pokemon to use would be redundant, the master said, brushing off the doctor's suggestion. Looking down at the Pokemon battle about to begin, the master smiled evilly, raising a mic to his lips. Let battle begin.